Hey everybody, wanted to talk to you today about plumbing in a filter manifold. So this is our setup. We've got a wader pool pump, we've got our discharge line, existing flanges where we're going to adapt the new filters to the existing piping. Customer didn't want to change piping that wasn't leaking. So we have our backwash line and then our return line. What was here before was two TR140 filters, and we changing them out for Waterco 36-inch SM36 filters. So step one, we cut the piping out of the way, got the old filters out. Then we scraped the floor clean, washed it down, made sure that it was nice and level, and that we had a good base to work with. From there, we set the filters in place. Went ahead and eyeballed it to make sure that they were lining up with the manifold, and then we had this left over from another job. You can make one, obviously, to line your filters up. Basically, you just give yourself about an inch or so in between your filters. Obviously, check your specs to make sure what the manufacturer says. You may need more than that. In this case, we were good with an inch. So we used this kind of as a jig to measure the distance so that we could rebuild the new manifold that we're adapting. So we got lucky, and the outlet vertical distance is the same as the old one. Let me find a tape measure real quick. So if I measure this, the center is about 13 inches. Same for here. Now, of course, I'm measuring on a reduced piece. Let's see, what does it say here? Yeah, about 13 inches there as well. Okay, so it doesn't do me any good to measure this one like I was doing a second ago, because this is actually a 3-inch bushing. So, yeah, so about 13 inches. So we got lucky there. We're not going to have to adjust the height of the lower manifold. Now, obviously, this one's not going to be the one that's in place. We're just using it to get a measurement. So it helps to buck the filters up square, right? And then from there, we have to adapt the height of the filter inlet to the existing height of the manifold. If we were changing the inlet piping and all of that, we would be able to start from scratch. From here, we have to adapt it to whatever spacing this is, okay? So it happens that we're going to use two 45s. Now on these 3-inch 45s, the socket measures 2 inches. All right. So when you want to create what we call a stubby, you measure a 4-inch piece, and then your sockets will almost butt up to one another. So I've got a 4-inch piece in here, here, and here. Same on this other side. It's critical to get your measurements very close so that everything lines up nice and square. Now, these 45s, I don't know if it's going to show up. They're not exactly vertical, okay? So since we have a union, we can actually rotate this, and even though we're rotating, this pipe will stay square. It's not going to change the angle, but it will allow us to change the height of where we want to go, all right? So if I needed to go lower, you see, I could go lower to the manifold, or I can come up with it, all right? So once I've got these created, then I can go ahead and build my cross member between here, all right? And so sometimes I'll build the cross member first. In this case, I've already got it mocked up over here, and I've gone ahead and glued some of it together. So let me see if I can get this put in here. Okay, so change hands. Come on, get that hooked, put that in, push, push, push. Okay. Okay, so none of this is bolted very tight. We're a little loose still, so we have room to wiggle to get this into place. All right, so the first thing that I did was I went ahead and coupled this T onto here, and then I dry fit some 45s to figure out what that measurement was going to be. Now obviously this socket's going to go further in. Once we push the filters forward, they're empty. So it'll be easy to scoot them forward to meet up with the manifold. All right, so that's really about it. Now our measurement from here to here is easy way to get that measurement is to build your inlet header here, and then go ahead and dry fit the T-on, and then just run a tape measure through this pipe would not be here. Run a tape measure from the edge of this socket to here, and that'll tell you how far apart they need to be. Now, taking into account that you have some gap here, if your filters are touching and they have to have some room for expansion, that can be a problem. Okay, so you need to make sure you have your proper distance there. But in a nutshell, that's building a manifold. I'm going to replicate very similarly the bottom. That's going to come straight out. It's not going to 45 up or down. It'll just build straight out, put some unions on, and that's basically it. Yeah, so this is just dry fit. You can see it's lining up really nicely with the old one. Now if I needed to scoot it, see, I can scoot it forward, backward, make it line up, and we'll go from there. Now, key part, last thing I'll touch on, is it's really important to remember that you have unions that you can loosen and tighten. Same thing on your flanges. So you could plumb all this together, and if you get into a tight spot where you can't take something apart, you can always take your flange apart, take your union apart. And in this case, I have the unions tight enough that they'll hold square, but not so tight I can't rotate them. So that's going to do it for this video. That's in a nutshell, plumbing a manifold.